Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. This upcoming week is going to rock your socks off, potentially. Now, we're going to talk about everything that is currently happening with AMC stock, what happened last week, and what you need to know heading into this upcoming week. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section. Thank you for tuning in. And let's get straight into it. So, lo and behold, the FTD situation. Adam Aron has asked FINRA as well as the New York Stock Exchange to look into trading activity of AMC stock. Not a word, not a peep, not a moan, not a grump, not a tweet, not a nothing. They don't give a shit, okay? Bottom line is that. Now, you're going to have some FTDs that come due on Monday, okay? August 7th. You're going to have about 12.5 million running FTDs that still need to be covered. Now, at this point, none have been covered. And likely, we could argue if they actually do get covered or not. Who knows? But that's a very high number. That's the highest numbers that you have seen for AMC stock in this entire saga so far. By far, records. And this is probably because there was a lot of naked shorts in AMC. I know that's a highly frowned upon word. And the anchor, Lisa, whatever her name is, from CNBC, got shunned pretty hard 2 years ago when she said naked shorts on TV. But she knows as well as everyone else knows. They were nakedly shorting AMC because they thought the courts were going to side with AMC and let this go through. And this was just going to be a free way to make money. Now there's a bunch of FTDs, and it's biting them in the ass. And that's what happened on Friday. AMC stock was positive, and it's likely to be positive again this week. Now, minus any updates from the courts. That's going to take precedence over anything else that is said here in this video. If the judge says, yeah, guys, you can go through with this split, you could do this reverse split and raise as much capital as you like, then, you see kind of what's going to happen. The stock's probably going to fall in that news. As well, you could also make the argument that that could be bullish, right? Because AMC would raise billions and billions of dollars of capital. There is an argument for both sides of that equation. There's also the possibility that AMC cancels this court proceeding. And they say, hey, we don't even need this. There's too much controversy. We're just going to go ahead and raise capital a different way. That would be the ultimate good news. I don't know if that's going to happen, but the performance we've seen from AMC stock last week suggests that maybe that's a possibility, or at the very least, something is happening with the stock. I think different than just FTDs being covered, right? If some small FTDs were covered, I don't think that had the bullish effect on AMC stock that we seen on Friday. Now, in context to what happened in the broader markets on Friday, well, stocks sold off. Very unhappy day for the markets. Apple stock, look at this drop. Dude, look at this. This is a daily candlestick chart. This is taking you back to January of 2022. Look at this gap down in Apple, okay? You have not seen a fall like this in a very long time. Apple stock likely to continue to fall, okay? It's probably going to send down the markets. That's what you've seen on Friday, and that's what happened to the markets. Really, towards the second half of the day, markets started to sell off aggressively. Well, what happened with AMC? Check this out. AMC was green, 0.5% in regular trading, up 1.22% in after hours. If you just look at the charts, you don't even have to be educated in technical analysis. This looks bullish. If this was the first day at looking at charts, you would be able to say this looks bullish, right? This does not look bearish. So the charts look very favorable as well. I think that's something to also point out. Now, this was very strong outperformance. AMC did not manage to close above $5 per share, which is slightly discouraging to some. I don't think it's a big deal. Now, the big catalyst for AMC stock this week is going to be, you guessed it, earnings. Now, Wedbush came out and made some comments on Friday, and we've talked about this in other videos, but we'll reiterate kind of what they said. says our industry estimates are for 2023 North American box office to end up 20% over 2022, about 78% of 2019's box office, with AMC at least maintaining its 22% market share, if not expanding, with this vast network of premium large format screens, they wrote. The Wedbush analyst expects AMC to report Q2 market share of the domestic box office of at least 21.5% compared to its pre-pandemic average of 21% and its post-pandemic average of 23% when it hands down its latest earnings on August 8th after the close. Now, to summarize that long story short, they expect AMC to do well and take market share. That's essentially what they're saying. That's great news. Now, the Wedbush analyst expects AMC to report Q2 market share of the domestic box office. I actually just read that. It says they forecast Q2 revenue of $1.31 billion compared to the average analyst estimate of $1.27 billion. So they expect better revenue numbers than what Wall Street is currently expecting, which is more bullish than Wall Street, at least what we are seeing right now. They expect earnings per share of negative 0.04. negative 4 cents, slightly below the consensus estimate of negative 5 cents per share, according to Zach's consensus estimate. Domestic revenue is forecasted at $1.03 billion, with attendance up 7% year over year, and international revenue is expected to be $274 million on a 4% increase in attendance over the year ago quarter. Quote, we expect positive commentary from AMC's management about the successful Barbie and Oppenheimer run so far in AMC's domestic and European markets, the analyst noted. We also expect an overall optimistic view on the company's ability to mitigate any negative impacts of the ongoing labor strikes should they end in the next 1 to 2 months. Now, they say that volatility is expected. In spite of recent box office successes, AMC is instead concerned with its cash requirements. Ape shares falling and the writers and actors strikes persisting, the analyst highlighted. They wrote that they continue to expect volatility in both AMC and Ape shares while the judge considers the modification AMC submitted. In the meantime, we think AMC will wait as long as possible before issuing Ape shares at such a significant discount to AMC shares, and while Adamaran attempts to persuade his shareholders to act in the best interest of AMC. The analysts also maintain their $2 price target on AMC shares based on a generous 12 times enterprise value, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization multiple on their full year 2025 EBITDA estimate. AMC shares traded at $5.01 on Friday afternoon. We value AMC at a premium multiple relative to its pre-COVID historical range of 7 times to 9 times due to its majority retail ownership who value AMC shares significantly higher than AMC's peers, they wrote. Now, so basically what they're saying here is they expect good earnings, they expect good commentary from management, but this court situation, AMC raising capital, is going to be the thing that drives the volatility, that's going to drive that big move up or down. They also value AMC generously, which is true. If you look at just the EPS numbers, they're negative. They've been negative. Well, if AMC's business gets back to where it was pre-pandemic and they somehow can start to turn a profit, well, the valuation's going to look a lot more appealing. And after this earnings, some analysts will be forced to raise their estimates if earnings are really good, maybe even raise some of their price targets. Now, I think that's the big story here. Now, analysts heading into this earnings, nobody really foreshadows AMC's earnings coming in less than about a loss of 6 cents a share. But nobody is also higher than a loss of 3 cents per share. So it's really tight ranged compared to what we've seen in just look at this range right here. Where my cursor is, a big old circle right here. There's a very small range, and it's light blue is the range, compared to what we have seen in other earnings. Now, most of the time, AMC does come in higher than the estimates. If that were to happen this time around, very good news. If AMC could somehow be positive on an EPS basis, the stock would soar, would absolutely go crazy. And that is a possible outcome for this week. Now, let's get into some of the other things that you need to know as well. As I reported last week, you have seen a lot of your Canadian banks actually buying the dip like crazy in AMC, including Bank of Well, this is not Canada, but Bank of New York Mellon, as well as Bank of Montreal and Barclays, have all basically bought the dip like nobody's business in AMC. The Bank of Montreal, again, increased their call position by 4,000%, now having exposure to 14.5 million shares of AMC. They decreased their put position by 98%, now having exposure to 12,000 shares of AMC on the short side. Bank of Montreal, Canada, increased their share position by 7,000% in the last quarter, now worth almost 2 million shares. This is not something you would expect to see on AMC in its current form, meaning that if everything was so negative and this court proceeding was going to go through and it was going to drop AMC, you wouldn't see banks doing what they're doing right now. I think that's the simple fact of the matter. But that is exactly what is happening. It really makes me kind of scratch my head. What the hell? What's going on? Well, if you ask a Bank of Montreal, well, they would tell you something positive is coming for AMC, if I were to imagine. Now, the short score currently over on Ortex is 93, $762.18 million worth of AMC stock currently sold short. Estimated short interest on free float at 30%. Free float out on loan at about 37.38%. Shares out on loan 193 million. Days to cover 8.15. Cost to borrow trailing 3-month average at 243.84%. 82% share utilization. Now, if we take a look at the cost of borrow fees actually went higher on Friday to 210.5% from Interactive Brokers, and the cost to borrow max 380%, cost to borrow average 357%. And if you take a look, AMC is on the threshold securities list still. No surprise, that has to do with FTDs, as well as the live short interest of free float at 30.17% and 156 million shares that are currently sold short. Option activity on Friday was pretty negative, a smaller dollar amount than what you're typically used to, only seeing $10.6 million heading into AMC Options with that, again, 8% positive order value. So what you're looking at here right now is AMC being at the most squeezable level that you have ever been at in the history of AMC. I think that is just in and of itself something that you want to be bullish on, right? We're a lot more bullish than we have ever been. Don't forget that. Now, for next week, I also think the options could give us quite a bit of volatility as well, especially if we do get that upside move, because there's not a lot of calls even relative to puts, or especially what we have seen with some of the large option expirations, right? For the call side, there's 8,000 calls currently in the money, 89,000 calls out the money, in the money puts at 34,000, out the money puts at 202,000. If you do get a positive earnings and AMC stock does start to run, well, that's gonna, put a lot more money into potentially hedging for that upside in AMC. Market makers will have to go out and buy a lot more shares of AMC. Now, if we look at the earnings calendar, you have Palantir, Lucid, Chegg, Paramount, Shockwave, Five9, Beyond Meat, Monday after hours, Tuesday pre-market. Tuesday pre-market, UPS, Eli Lilly, Datadog, Barracks, Kronos, and Novavax. Tuesday after hours, Rivian, AMC, Upstart, Twilio, Celsius, Luminar. Wednesday pre-market, Roblox, Sony, Wendy's. Could have some runners this week. Wednesday after hours, Walt Disney, Plug, The Trade Desk, Win, Canopy Growth, Sonos, Illumina. Thursday pre-market, Alibaba, US Foods, Yeti, Six Flags, Ralph Lauren, and that's basically it as far as bigger earnings. Now, UPS is going to be important for the broader markets, for the broader economy, because if UPS does not do well, that likely means the broader economy is not doing well, so you definitely want to keep that in mind. Last thing that I will say is you actually seen a fear move on Friday, right? So the markets are probably not going to be that great this week. Now, if AMC reacts anything to like what we seen on Friday, well, the markets being red might actually be positive for AMC. The 10-year Treasury dropped almost 15 basis points on Friday. You have seen an increase in the 10-year Treasury as of recently from about 3.74% all the way up to the high of 4.19%. This is bad for financing costs. This is bad for any companies that have a lot of debt. If you wanted to buy a new car or a new house, this is driving up those interest rates. Now, if we take a look at the charts, I think this is very important to point out, and this will help you, make sense of what's going on in the markets or how significant a sell-off is anytime in your investment journey from now on forward after you hear this information. But bonds, you can look at them as a flight to safety, right? For investors that have to stay invested. If you thought something bad was going to happen, like maybe COVID back here, people like to buy the bonds because the bonds are safety. Right? And people are like, hey, if anything gets worse, I can just buy the bonds and, the Fed would cut rates if things got really bad and bond prices would go higher. Well, that's what happened during COVID, right? This was a rush to safety. And then people realized it was overplayed and it wasn't going to be as bad as we thought. And there was going to be stimulus coming. Wow, we should buy stocks. Everyone sells out of bonds, right? That's what happens here. So anytime there's a market sell-off, you want to see if TLT is green. And the larger the green, the larger the fear. And what happened on Friday? TLT was up 1.77% in regular trading and went up 0.06% in after hours. So this was an increase of over 1.8% on the day. It's been a long time. You have to go back to, I believe, back here in December of 2022 to get a rally in the bonds that was this aggressively, and that was December 1st, 2022. We could take a look at what happened to the SPY during that day. Yeah, the S&P was down that day. That day, S&P was slightly down, and then the following 3 days or so, markets fell about 3.5%, and then you kind of went up again, and then you sold off again. It's usually a fear move. It's usually a bad sign for the markets whenever you see TLT massively green on a day and the markets are red. So keep that in mind as well, guys. These are the reasons why AMC stock is going to be absolutely insane this week, and I hope that you are ready for it. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want to come trade with us live in real time, linked down below in the description of this video. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.